Here with us now is Ahmed Foud Alkhatib, who's a senior fellow at the Atlantic Council, leads the Realign for Palestine project, which is aimed at challenging extremism in the fight for Palestinian freedom. Interesting writings on, you've been critical of Hamas. I've read some, different subjects where you've weighed in on. What about this one? We can start, I suppose, with the Idan Alexander news. So American hostage released right ahead of the president's trip. What do you think? What's Hamas even getting at? What do you make of the timing of this? And is there some sort of a broader meaning that might lead to something else?
Thanks for having me. I think the release of any hostage is positive in the sense that they should have never been there in the first place. And sure. I hope that they're all united with their families, just as I hope that that inches us closer to the end of this war, which has been horrendously destructive for the people of Gaza and has compounded the suffering. However, I think it calls into question the role of Qatar in its influence over Hamas, the fact that they were willing to release Idan Alexander for ostensibly nothing in exchange, really. It was a goodwill gesture by Hamas to try and convey to President Trump that they're willing to talk and negotiate. A lot of the Hamas mouthpieces on social media and online have been bragging about how this is this is the first political acknowledgement of Hamas, of the terror group, by the U.S. administration. And I don't know if this means Qatar could have exerted more pressure on Hamas to give up control of Gaza, to release the hostages, and to accept the ceasefire terms that were on.
So what are you most fearful of now as the president heads over there? And of course, obviously, you talked about this earlier, the backdrop with the Qataris supposedly ready to gift this new plane to be used as Air Force One is in the middle of this.
Well, I'm worried about the possibility that the president will be more looking at this from a tactical point of view rather than a strategic point of view. Yes, we want the war to end. I've lost family members. I have a lot of friends. As we're speaking, I'm actually still trying to get family and friends out of the Gaza Strip. That said, a Hamas that is neither fully in control or fully defeated, that stays in Gaza, that a frozen conflict, if you will, is utterly disastrous for the people in there. There will be no reconstruction, no recovery, no rejuvenation. So that's on one hand. On the other hand, a lot of the Gulf nations in there, the Saudis, the Emiratis, and to a certain extent, the Qataris, Gaza is a secondary issue. They're there to talk business with Mr. Trump. They want U.S. technology. They're there to diversify their economies, to invest in the United States. Gaza and Palestine and Palestinian statehood and the two-state, two-nation solution, if you will, that is a secondary issue. That is not their top priority. And so the only one for whom this is really a top priority is Qatar, by virtue of the fact that it has leverage over Hamas.
Because
I don't enjoy that.
You're right. Everyone's been talking about this trip in financial terms. Like, I put it up from the tablet guys, the $1 trillion. This came from the New York Times. And so, you're supposed to sign $1 trillion in deals. All right, Ahmad. So it's not, you're right. It's not, this seems like this whole trip's more, and I'm not saying right, wrong, or indifferent, more economic, financial than it is kind of geopolitical, dealing with some sort of ceasefire possibility in Gaza.
Precisely that. The other thing, too, is that I'm worried about Mr. Witkoff, who is, I think he's sincere in wanting to reach an agreement. I had a chance to meet Mr. Witkoff. I think he's a good man. And managing the Iranian file, the Ukraine and Russian file, and the Gaza file with what I believe is minimal staff, with what I believe information that might be inadequate, concerns me immensely about what kind of a deal are we going to reach. I also am worried that Mr. Trump is going to potentially turn his back on this issue after the retrieval of the American hostages and let Netanyahu, the prime minister of Israel, do whatever he wants in Gaza, which is a terrible mistake because Mr. Netanyahu has shown time and again that he's not really serious about ending the war in a meaningful way that initiates transformation. He's allowed himself, and that is Netanyahu, to be beholden to some extremist elements in Israeli politics.
Okay, Ahmed, thank you for coming on tonight and sharing your views on this. And we'll continue to follow it, and then hopefully we'll have you back as well to talk about it. Thanks for coming on tonight.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.